Happy Monday, everyone. So excited to see you as always. And excited to chat with Michelle, who will be joining us shortly. So for those of you that do not know me, my name is Sarah Krajewski, elementary art teacher in Wisconsin, and host of your weekly live chats. So today we're going to be chatting with Michelle, who is an art teacher of 18 years and has a lot of amazing things to share, including her art experiences that she puts on for her students, and in addition to surviving this pandemic year, right? This has been really hard for a lot of us art educators and educators alike, and it's been nice to know we're not alone in both the struggles and the successes of this year. So I'm really excited to chat with Michelle. She will be joining us here shortly. So as we wait to get her in here, everybody that is in the chat here, if you want to just drop into the chat what your teaching level is, maybe where you're joining us from, that would be awesome. Or if you're a teacher, how many more days do you have left? Looks like Michelle's in the chat, so she'll be joining us here shortly, and she'll be ready to tell us all about, this is the most exciting part when we finally get to have our guests on. Michelle! Hello, friend.
Hello.
Hi, you look like you're in the most magical forest place in the entire world. It's so beautiful.
Thank you. This is my backyard.
I love it. I love it. I would just be out there all day if I could be.
Yeah. Is this an okay angle?
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, see, I'm dropping the phone. Hold on. Let me try something else.
Yes. We know that the tech world, we got to kind of set it up, get it ready,
Right.
get it good. I mean, I love the purple flowers, so those might, yes, that looks pretty good. You're a little bit low, but I think we can still see your whole face, so you're good. Maybe just a touch down, but I think you're okay.
See,
well, welcome, right? Michelle. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yay, that's perfect. That's perfect. How are you doing today?
Great. I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. It's always hard on a Monday to like amp up the energy sometimes, but I've been looking forward to chatting with you because you're such a presence, and I'm really excited to hear about how your crazy year has been going. So for those of you that don't know Michelle, can you tell us just a little bit about you, your teaching, your world?
Sure. So I have been teaching for 18 years. This is my 18th pandemic year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I started in East Cleveland Public Schools. I was there for 15 years. And then I decided I just needed a change. So I'm currently teaching at an independent school. And for those of you that don't know what that is, an independent school has no religious affiliation, but my students do pay tuition to go to our school. So this is my third year at Hawkins School.
So how has that experience been for you as far as transitioning to I guess it wasn't really pandemic year when you were transitioning. So do you feel relatively comfortable at that position you've been at for a little while?
Right. I mean, when I first started, it was a drastic difference because I was used to being in an inner city school where supplies are limited. You know, you have to be not only teacher, but counselor, security guard, all of these different things. And then I went to a school where money is abundant, the kids really want to be there. And my first year was beautiful. And we did a theme of, what was our theme? Latin America. So awesome. It was all Latin American art.
For your art show?
Say again?
For your art show?
For our art show, and just the theme for the entire year. So I picked a theme that we thread throughout the entire school year, and depending on the grade level, the kids have different projects to go with that theme.
So let's talk just a little bit more about that, because one of the things that first I was sucked into your Instagram, seeing how you displayed your art show, but then also just kind of your overall thematic units and how you create your curriculum, which you can also feel free to share if it's very different this year or if you are still able to continue that theme. But can you tell us how you design your curriculum and how you sort of pick like what your students will be learning? What does that look like?
Sure. So what I usually do, what I started out doing was I chose 3 options of art that I didn't have a strong background in.
Sure.
That way I can continue to learn and explore along with the kids. And then I have the students vote on where in the art world that they want to learn about for the entire year. I like to do it that way because you can really get the absorption, you can really dig deep into that area of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time the school year ends, they know it backwards, forwards. They can identify certain artworks and artists, as opposed to kind of jumping around from topic to topic.
Sure, sure.
So, what I usually do is I will have those three main points. I'll give the kids a little blurb so they understand what they're voting for. And then once we have a winner, I usually use probably toward the end of the school year and also all during the summer, I start a Pinterest page.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I just throw everything into this page. I will look for foods from that area, landmarks, traditional clothing, and then I build upon the elements and principles that I've over the years outlined for each student,
Mm-hmm.
grade level. And then it kind of magic happens. And the great thing about that is the kids are already invested, you know,
Right.
It's not like you have the students that say, oh, I don't want to do this. Like, what do you mean? You voted for this? You know?
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
It definitely grabs and engages the students from that viewpoint.
Yeah, I love that. I think any ownership that we can give our students is just going to help with that engagement, right? Because if they're, again, like you said, not invested, not excited, then it's going to be hard to hook them a little bit. So I love that it's their choice, right? They have a hand in picking that too. What are some of the geographical locations or themes that you've done in the past for those of us, because I've seen a few friends in the chat be excited about kind of doing like a yearly theme instead of maybe a shorter theme? What are some that you've done in the past to give us a few ideas?
So I've done Asian art. We've explored Africa. We've done Latin America. We've done Australia. We currently we're actually doing medieval art.
Mm-hmm.
And this coming school year, I'm planning on doing Where in the Art World is Carmen Sandiego?
Oh, do tell. What is that going to look like?
So I'm really excited about this.
Yes.
The kids are going to be super sleuths. So they are going to try to find out where Carmen is that particular month in the school year.
Mm-hmm.
And the great thing is, I have a couple friends that have connections in Germany, the Dominican Republic, Hong Kong. So they have teacher friends that are going to make videos saying, I spotted Carmen.
That's awesome.
You know, I'm in a region that this is our local food. These are our colors. This is our flag. I'm in the market. Can you guess where I am? Type of deal.
Yeah.
So after the kids complete a project from that area of the world, at the beginning of the school year, we're going to create our own passport books.
Cool.
And have their agent information, their top secret agent name.
Uh-huh.
And I'll put a little stamp in there to check off that they completed that area.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that so much. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like, I mean, don't get me wrong, but I feel like you could just do that every year and just change the location. Like, that's kind, you know what I mean?
Exactly,
Like
because as I was putting things together, I'm like, okay, we're only going to have time for maybe 6 areas.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's so much more that can be
Right.
delved into. So
Yeah.
I have to see how, you know, the year goes. I
Yeah.
just got the disappointing news that I'm not going to get my art room back next year.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
So that, yeah,
That's so
scales
frustrating.
things down a bit. But the flip side is I'm going to get Cassie Stevens' cart that she has recently designed
Oh,
to
nice.
soften the blow.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's make it a little bit easier for sure.
Exactly. So,
Well, I'm sorry to hear about your art room, but hopefully maybe that will be hopefully a future thing, not next year, but you know, the year after too. Now, I guess we kind of skipped over it because I do want to talk more about that passport idea and kind of sharing those locations with our students, because
Sure.
that is such a great way to talk about art, is where it's from and what does it look like and what are the people that are creating it. But can you just give us a quick recap, Michelle, about what your year looks like and what it has looked like through this year? Because today we're talking about persevering through the pandemic because it's been hard, right? So
Exactly.
what has it looked like for you?
So, about a month before school started, I got a call from my administrative team, and they said, "We have some bad news. We have to create some social distancing. You're going to be on a cart this year."
Yeah.
Now, I've been on a cart before. Like I said, I'm
Mm-hmm.
18 years in, so I've done just about every kind of art teaching that you can do. So I'm
Right.
I say, okay, I got this. I've been here before. I can do this. So then the added layer was I have kids that are still remote.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we had to figure out, okay, how am I going to be in person and my kids are still at home because my
Right.
husband works at night. Um, so they developed a way where my kids could be on campus in a separate room,
Mm-hmm.
and then they would monitor them while they were online in their classes.
Mm-hmm.
So then in our school, they have a lot of barriers to get around the school. So I had to modify a cart, get around these barriers. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know where all of the shoes and coats and mittens. I mean, I'm probably a race car,
Oh yeah,
you know,
you could win.
professional by now.
Oh
I
yeah.
can like drive that thing like crazy. Um, and then just added duties that weren't a thing before COVID, right?
Right.
So
Right.
we every morning at our school we check kids' temperatures to make sure that they're in a safe zone.
Mm-hmm.
We adapted a totally new program of dismissing our kids that needs to be manned, and they chose, of course, the specialists to do that.
Naturally.
Um, just things like going into other teachers' rooms and setting up according to how they have their room set up where students can see. We can get a little messy. I can hook up to their technology.
Mm-hmm.
It's all been a challenge.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
so each day I just try to, take a deep breath. I try to make sure I do things like getting a good night's sleep. Um, I get to school super early, earlier than the classroom teachers.
Uh-huh.
Um, I want to make sure that my cart is set up, that I've gone around the various drying racks that I have around the school.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Um, just different things like that. Before the school year even started, we fortunately have a health and wellness person that works at our school, and he talked about how therapeutic it is to be out in nature,
Mm-hmm.
because by design the pandemic has forced us to be inside.
Right. Right.
So I really tried to take that to heart, and in between, if I have a moment's rest in between classes, I'll just try to go outside, take a math break, or just sit in the sun
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just let some of that absorb into my skin,
Yes.
and
Yes.
refresh.
It's crazy how much that makes a difference. And if you have windows in your room, or if you don't, or if you have even a portion of the time where, like, I always, sometimes I'll take the long way with my students and we'll exit out an exit door that's just essentially walking outside to their classroom, right? So all of
Uh-huh.
those things are really, really important, and I love that you're focusing on that too, especially when there's already been so many things taken away
Mm-hmm.
from you and your program this year. So that kind of brings me to the next question, because I love that you know, taking a deep breath and just saying, okay, I've been here before. I've done art on a cart. I know that this is able to be done, even though it's hard. We can
Mm-hmm.
do it. It's going to be okay. What do you
Right.
feel like? What do you feel like you did or do to continue to stay present for your students and to continue to kind of care for yourself to persevere through this year? Because we're close. Do you have a countdown yet? Do you know how many days you have left?
I haven't made the official count, but I do know that our last day is June 10th.
Okay,
So I
you're
don't
like,
know if the
let's
countdown works for me,
uh-huh.
because if I'm looking for it, then it just drags. It's like,
Yes.
no, lady, I'm nowhere near you.
I get it. I totally get it. I get it. So what, I mean, okay, right. So the countdown doesn't have to be a thing for sure, but definitely, I mean, I don't know about you. We were talking about how I think this is what hands down the hardest year we've had, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been in situations where kids were being unsafe, parents were angry and looking to fight.
Yeah.
This is the toughest year.
Yes.
So, for any of you out there that are like, I can't, I'm completely overwhelmed, you
Mm-hmm.
have every right to feel that way. I often think about the first year teachers
Yes.
coming into that situation during this pandemic. I mean, my hat's off to you.
I try to tell the few new teachers at our school, like, I promise you it will get better. I
It gets
promise
better.
you, you know?
If you can make it through this, the rest is
Yes.
just going to be smooth sailing.
Oh yes, exactly. So you've been trying to prioritize your getting your sleep, getting rest, giving that balance a little bit too, and hopefully your school supporting you with being able to allow your kids to get their virtual learning, even though again that's not easy. I mean, they're young kids trying to navigate the world of virtual learning, but it's important to make sure that we can see that there is an end in sight, right? And that
Right.
that we can do it and it's possible. So I know part of that for you was finding people to support you, right? And finding your art
Hmm.
teacher group of educators that we can kind of lean on because it's already tough when it feels like we're doing it alone, but then when we step back and realize, okay, this is really hard for a lot of us and in a lot of the same ways. So you were somewhat recently on an episode of Nick Hahn's Everyday Art Room,
Hmm.
talking about finding your art teacher tribe, your group of art teachers. Can you just expand on that a little bit more about why that's important to you, Michelle?
Sure. So, as we know, as art teachers, usually there's one of you, maybe two, if you're at an exceptional school that just
Mm-hmm.
values the arts. So it's already like you're in a zone by yourself. Who is this weird lady? She dresses a little weird,
Yep.
funky. Her room always smells like paint and glue,
Uh-huh.
and then you slim down that category to being a woman artist. And then I'm in the smaller subset of being an art teacher of color.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times when we are in these programs like workshops and things, I'm constantly looking around, but I don't see anyone that looks like me. Um,
Right.
and it can be a challenge. It's very lonely. So I try to reach out to different art teachers of color. Instagram has been such a great tool for that. I've made connections with Busy Brushes, Art Nerd, just all of these amazing women that I would never have discovered if it weren't for
Right.
technology, right?
Yes.
Um, I also discovered there is a group for teachers of color that teach in independent schools.
Oh, nice.
Right. So there's a conference every year, usually right before Christmas, and the location changes each year. So one year it was, where were we? It was in St. Louis this
Mm-hmm.
past year. Of course, it was virtual.
Right.
Um, Before that, we were in, was it Chicago? So it just moves all over. But I can't tell you how refreshing it is to see someone that looks like you that's doing your same work, um, and just throwing around ideas or them bringing to your attention contemporary artists that you had never heard of before.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
if you're an art teacher of color, hit me up. Let's
Yeah,
chat.
absolutely. Shoot her a message, and I'll be sharing a lot more about Michelle's Instagram afterwards in our the Art of Ed story, so you can follow along and make sure you give her a follow for sure. So yes, shoot her a message. Or do you happen to remember the name of that conference for anyone that might be interested?
Right. It is called the People of Color Conference.
Beautiful. Okay, perfect. So if anyone's interested, it sounds like a really great way to connect. And as we know, teaching is all about kind of leaning on each other and finding those meaningful connections. for educators, but also for our students. So that sounds like a really great way to help find your support system, right?
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
I don't know how we would do it alone, Michelle. Like, how would we have all finished this year if we were just in our own? It already feels like we were alone, but then on top of that, even more alone, right?
Right. And even you were asking me about ideas for my classroom. I mean, I'll see something fantastic done by Ms. Lee on her site, and that'll give me an idea like, okay, she's doing these gems, I'm doing medieval art. How can I take that, change a little bit to make it my own? But Instagram is such a resource of
Yes.
just, it's even comforting to see what other people are doing and say,
Yeah.
oh, I remember that lesson, or wow, that's a really like intense, like draining lesson to do. I know she had a lot of prep to do.
Yeah.
Or seeing two art chambers and all of her model
Mm-hmm.
magic that she does. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. She might be in the chat today. She likes to watch too. Laura Lee
oh,
is always,
cool.
yes. But I totally agree. I mean, it's nice to just feel like we're not the only ones in that situation, right? Is knowing like, okay, I can reach out. How did you do this part? What did you do to there she is. um to make something really come to life, right? So I feel like that's a huge part is connecting, right? And connecting with other
Mhm.
Instagram artists or art teachers alike that we know of. And at some point, hopefully we can see each other in person and connect like we used to. So it'll be a lot.
Absolutely. Even from the standpoint of
I
just being
know.
seen as a professional,
Yes.
and seeing I have a curriculum, I have art elements and principles that are really important. Just
Yeah.
like math has, the building blocks, art has those same building blocks and
Yeah.
touches every single aspect in school. You know,
Completely.
a lot of times I will tell parents, because I'll get a kid, he's like, my kid has never been interested in art before. And all of a sudden he's talking about all this stuff that I have no idea
Mm-hmm.
about. And I say, even if your child does not become the next Pablo Picasso, Vincent van Gogh, whatever,
Yes.
the fact that they can be an advocate and appreciate whenever you get a little bit of money or free time, where does that go? To the arts. You're
Right.
you're buying clothes. You're going to see a movie. You are, investing in the arts. So
Exactly. And kind of broadening that belief, that understanding of what is art, what are the arts, right? So that our students can recognize that a little bit more instead of just that like typical response, oh, okay, if I'm not painting a picture or drawing something, it's not art, right? There's
exactly.
there's so much more to that. Well, let's talk a little bit about your own art too, because that I think is a good resource for any art teacher that's looking to kind of like relax a little bit, unwind. I've been trying to phrase my summer as not like a recharge necessarily, but a healing. So I've been
Hmm.
mentioning that in some of the other chats, and I know I mentioned it to you too, is this year was filled with trauma, right? So we need to
Right.
kind of step back and heal a little bit, and our art making practices can be part of that too. So can you tell us about your art making and what you're interested in creating, Michelle?
Sure. I love doing a lot of portraiture. Lately, I've been really looking into my ancestors, the strong women in my family that have shaped who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And again, being a person of color, trauma is what we're born into.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just always fascinated me to see how, despite everything, these women have persevered. They've run a household, they've run someone else's household.
Yeah.
They have cooked and cleaned. They have, loved on their children. They've found a way to get themselves an education. So right now, I'm working on some collage type of things. I was sent some pictures from let me get this right, my great aunt, whose husband built her a home down in Georgia.
That's awesome.
And right, the remnants are still standing. I got this really cool picture of her mailbox, and
Ooh.
the numbers say 777, which in the African American community, the number seven is biblical and it has a very spiritual tie. So I've just been exploring that and celebrating these women that go very much unsung,
Yes,
are under
yes.
the radar, overlooked.
Absolutely. And again, I mean, sticking with sort of our theme of that word for this chat today, that perseverance, I mean, it sounds like that history of your culture and your family, it completely embodies perseverance too. And so I love that that is completely in line with who you are as an educator and as a human too. So that's pretty inspirational.
Right. And even the fiber arts aspect of it is very
Yeah,
culturally tied. So I'm pulling inspiration from Mecklin Thomas and a little bit of Faith Ringgold and,
that's awesome.
Romare Bearden, and just, having fun with it without any pressure.
Yeah, I mean that completely, and that's hopefully what like this sort of therapeutic art release should be like, is making that time to create, but then also not feeling pressure to have something, right? Is I'm not making
Yeah.
something to need to sell or whatever, right? But really
Hmm.
loving that process too.
Right.
Okay, so speaking of making things, like I said, your art shows, when you were able to have art shows to the extent that you could, are like floor to ceiling amazingness. Like
Thank
it's
you.
just so immersive, and I'm really inspired by how thematic it is and the quality of your students' work. And it's just it's clear that you're giving them a lot of amazing content when they talk about the themes that you've discussed. So can you just tell us, for those people that are in the chat or that will watch this later that haven't seen your art shows, just tell us kind of that process a little bit, and then what you hope to maybe do in the future, since as many of us, you aren't able to have an art show this year.
So I find that having a theme unifies your art show.
Mm-hmm.
So what I try to do is have at least two pieces from every student that I have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now
And
I know some.
how
Say
big is
again.
your school again, Michelle? Like how many students do you have approximately?
280.
Okay, so we're looking at like at least 500, 600 pieces, probably more.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And I'm a workhorse, so for some people that might seem like, oh my goodness, that's just. But I have a certain vision in my
Yep.
mind, how it should look, how it should feel. And it excites me when I see or hear my students like, Grandma, look, come over here. I did this one, and we talked
Yeah.
about this and that. And I want everybody to be able to have that experience and not wander around looking like, well, I don't have anything,
Yeah,
to
of
show.
course.
So I know that the teacher that was in my position before did it on a smaller scale, but
Go
we're
big.
all different.
Yes, we are.
We all have our thing. Um, what else about art shows? I know a lot of art teachers let their students select their best work.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't found that that's worked well for me, because a lot of times what students think is their best isn't all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And work that they feel isn't worthy of being shown is.
Yeah.
And when they see it in a different light, where it might be matted or it might be a part of a unit, they can see it in new eyes, like, wow,
Yeah.
I really did a nice job on that.
Yeah,
Type of
absolutely. I think sometimes that perspective and that new way to view their artwork can give them a different feeling about their work. I was just passing back artwork a few days ago, and I was handing back things, and the kids, I mean, it was only like a few weeks ago that we made them, but the kids were like, "Oh, I did a pretty good job." It's like they forget instantly, right?
They always forget.
They're like, "What is this? It looks so good." I'm like,
Yeah.
you did that.
Absolutely, I've found that to be true.
But I love how much art you have on display. It's like no matter what kid comes, what if maybe there's a family member that doesn't even have a kid in the art show, where it's like connected to somebody that's in administration, there's always going to be something that's so beautiful to look at for your show. So are you hoping to be able to do a show next year with your Carmen Sandiego theme? I mean,
So I've already been told that I won't be able to do a show next year.
oh
I
man,
know.
bummer.
Know.
I was like trying to send you good vibes because I want to see your show.
Exactly. I was pretty bummed about it.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of ways, because they're planning on a situation where I don't have to travel as much. They'll designated a certain spot
Mm-hmm.
for me to teach art. So I'm trying to think of creative ways. I know that you're doing the drive-by art
Yeah.
show, but even then you need a larger area to work on those boards and things. So
Right.
I'm open to ideas, because I always want to drive home to my students that art is not meant to be put away. It's meant to be
Yeah.
displayed and looked at.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And
yeah.
I think right. So if anyone else has some fun art show ideas, I know maybe I'll. There's been some art show articles from the Art of Ed about other like ideas you can do as far as maybe digital video. There's a lot of like virtual shows, which I know aren't the same, but there's aspects and a couple other Miss Art with Miss Susie Bowser. Her community's been doing window shop shows like downtown. So
Mhm.
those are kind of fun. That's like a drive-by art show type thing. So I mean,
Ash
there's
can
definitely.
Ashley McKee, she does the miniature
Oh,
shows.
nice.
You
Yeah,
remember
keep
that
it
she does
small.
that?
Yeah.
So I'm still working it out. Right now, I
Yes.
think my focus is trying to put a lid on this year,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yes.
Finish
Yes.
strong.
And give
Um,
yourself permission to take a break and not have to think about that too. I mean,
exactly.
I understand the temptation as art educators and teachers is to constantly be thinking and what's next and how do I prepare, but like I give you permission and y'all give yourself permission to like last day of school, you step back and you just don't think about it for a while because we need a breather.
Even those little jobs, odds and ends that we take on over the summer, like I was just
Stop.
offered, hey, do you want to run this camp?
Uh-huh.
And, my first instinct is, because I get excited about things, is
Yeah,
yes. But I'm
of course.
learning to say no first, because it's always easier to say, you know what, I do have a little bit of time, rather than
Yes.
hook yourself in.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's something we could all definitely hear too is that no is a complete sentence. We don't need a reason. That's plenty and knowing that we don't have to say yes to everything too. And then also I know when you were talking about like different art shows and different ways people are doing lessons, like it can be really hard to try to compare like, well, they have an art room or they're on a card and they're able to do this. It's like, you know,
True.
there's so many things that we put our energy towards and there's just no physically possible way that we can do everything. So remember that as the art teacher, you're picking what's most important to you. Is it an art show, having an art club, uploading to Artsonia, like whatever it is, just know
Right.
that that's what you're prioritizing and that's okay, right?
Every teacher's situation is different. You don't know the support that they have backing them. The
Exactly.
PTO might be helping them out.
Yeah.
But this year, this summer, the answer is no. I got
Yes.
to recharge that battery.
My girl, I love it. I love it. I completely agree. Well, as we're wrapping up our chat today, I did want to kind of reflect a little bit as we were thinking about how we've persevered through this year. It's been really hard, but there's also been some good things too. So, can you tell us about what your biggest successes were and what your biggest challenges were from this year?
Sure. So, big success, mastering Google Classroom,
Yes.
editing videos, the outpour of appreciation from some families that, said, hey, my child's favorite part of the day is popping on and seeing you live or watching one of your videos.
Yeah.
Um, Even just the appreciation factor, because at my school, we're doing 2-week rotations.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be an intensive of one grade level. So by the time I get around to other grade levels, they are beaming and ready for Miss
Yeah.
Mullins-Means to come in there and like, I missed you. What are we going to
Yes.
work on? And that makes me excited because I want to come through for them, right?
Yes.
Challenges have been just spiritually,
Mm.
it's just been overwhelming being a parent, a teacher, at the same breath, trying to engage my own kids at home.
Yes.
I've been asked so many things that I feel very overwhelmed. But it's also given me like we talked about, those chances to evaluate. You can't say yes to everything. So what do you truly want to do? And that's
Completely.
what you should do.
I love it. I love it. I mean, that's a great way to sum it up too, is the fact that it's hard to look past those challenges because it feels like there were so many, but we also know without that toxic positivity, right? But we know there are great things that have come from this year, that we've learned a lot and kind of given ourselves those priorities of what's important to Michelle, what's important to you as an art teacher, to anybody, right?
Exactly.
And that's helping us persevere through these difficult times. So we're in the final push. I know you have like 3-ish weeks left. And before I ask our trivia question, I just wanted to ask my final question, which is, what kind of parting words of advice or encouragement do you have for people as we persevere through the pandemic?
I would say find little ways that you can sprinkle some joy into your day. First thing when I get into my little closet that I work out of is I turn on some music for
Yeah.
whatever goes with my mood. It might be some reggae. It might be, just some classical music to calm my mind.
Yeah.
Don't forget to take those moments for yourself. Take a deep cleansing breath. And I'm a very spiritual person, so I just, say, hey, just speak through me. Let me use the right words. Let me be, a light for some of these kids. And I go in and I rock and roll.
I love it. I love it. Every day we're there is a new day, right? To keep going, to try again, to make it happen. Because there's only so many things we can change and control, and we gotta just keep moving. So I love it.
Get yourself some funky art teacher swag.
Yes.
Because some days when I don't want to go into work, I think, oh, but I have those new earrings and that cute skirt. So
I mean, your outfits are pretty amazing. Like, you have coordinating masks and stuff. I'm very impressed. Can you tell us what your earrings are too today, Michelle?
Oh, sure. So I used to have an Etsy shop. So I paint the artist and then the art on the other. So
beautiful.
I've kind of fallen behind, and my Etsy shop isn't open anymore. But
it's all right.
I have, Frida. I have Faith Ringgold. I have Keith Haring. Just so many different versions.
I love it. I love it. Well, no pressure. If at some point you ever bring that up, I'm sure you'll have lots of people on board to get some amazing art teacher swag from you, because it is so beautiful. But pushing that talent towards energizing yourself, looking at it as therapy, really trying to relax a little bit too. Okay, so my friends, we are going to end with a quick trivia question. For those of you that know how this works, we're just trying to have friends join us live, and those live winners get a chance to win this super cool rainbow sticker from the Art of Ed. Nice. So I will pose a trivia question to y'all, and the first person to answer in the chat will win the sticker. You just need to message the Art of Ed, just say, I won, and then tell us your address, and I will send that to you right away. So the question, which I said at the beginning, if you were listening, and Michelle said it too, the question is, how many years has Michelle been teaching? So type in the chat, how many years has Michelle been teaching? And if you don't know, guess, you might be right. But this is always fun because we're like ahead of them, so everybody's just waiting to hear the question.
Okay. Yeah, I'm waiting.
So give them 10 seconds and then we'll get the answers, hopefully.
Oh, okay. I see one.
Vic Mullins. Vic Mullins, I love it. There we go. I feel like maybe that's related, but I don't know. I love it. I would hope they know. All right. Go ahead and message me, Vic Mullins. I would love that. And then good guesses on the rest of you. Yes, 18 years, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, amazing. So after the chat today, I'm going to share more of some things you can follow from Michelle, some images of her art shows in the past. And like she had said, if there's anything you want to know, go ahead and message her so that you guys can stay connected, because as we know, those connections are incredibly important. So Michelle, thank you so much. You are a beautiful ray of sunshine, and I hope that your end of your year ends strong and that you can recharge this summer.
Truly my pleasure. This is the highlight of my week.
Absolutely. All right, friend, we will see you later. And thanks everyone for joining. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.